MedBix Webcast is a new kind of healthcare media channel to break the silo mentality and foster interdisciplinary thinking. Our mission is to fill that gap and to create a curiosity through different lenses, tapping the passion that guided the historical figures in medicine and bringing present-day groundbreaking research to the front lines. We interview physicians and leaders in the industry about present-day healthcare challenges on our live programming. Hey, welcome to the MedBix Webcast. Let me turn off this music for 1 second. Welcome to the MedBix Webcast. This is Raman Annamaraju. I'm the host. I'm going to talk about actually Albert Einstein a little bit today. So then, we have a very great guest, a very good friend of mine. She's going to join in a minute. Then after that, I'm going to present a topic on the OCD, depression, and sex all together. Maybe there's some connection to equation. Maybe if once you understand the equation, you can solve the problems. Maybe all three. So we'll see how we can solve the problem there. so we got to check it. So second one is that I'm going to talk about that is right now. That what is going on is this. Just one of the friends called me today, and then they're trying to shut down the hospitals. They're closing hospitals around the country. They're losing money. It is a big problem. Acute care, the people will get the severe heart attacks or any respiratory distress. Where they go, what they do, and also we need people who takes care of them, right? When you go to the heart attack or the drug overdose or any other emergencies come across, how do the teams respond? That's a very critical, particularly the nurses. If they don't have proper education and training, it is a little bit of a problematic, and it's saving lives is a critical. It's not a little bit problem, big problem, because a patient can die. So that's why we have a very excellent guest today. Her name is Susan Davis. She's a doctor of nursing, and then she's a RN for a while. She worked with the American Heart Association for a long time. So she's educator for the nurses. She develops courses for the Code Blue training courses. Let us talk with her. Let me bring Susan to the main stage. Welcome, Susan.
Hey, Ramana. Good evening.
Well, welcome to the MedBix Webcast. So tell me a little bit about your background, a little bit. What do you do? How you ended up this situation?
In this situation, sitting here with you here this evening. So what a crazy journey to land right here with you tonight. So, okay. Well, I am a critical care nurse, and I started my nursing in emergency and trauma a handful of years ago. And that kind of progressed into cardiac and open heart. I got my medic license while I was working in the trauma emergency room. And let me see, I worked with some open heart patients, did some flight. I did a little flight nursing. And then I transitioned into the kind of healthcare / academic space. And I was the director of the American Heart Association program for a healthcare system here in Florida. And I did that for a very long time. And now I am the resuscitation education manager for the same system here in South Florida. And that in a nutshell is what I do. Besides the work that I also do as Rescue RN, I am a kind of a crazy lady out there shouting from the mountaintops about the importance of CPR and knowing what to do regardless of where you are, right? So although my specialty is in hospital cardiac arrest response, there's just a huge pivot for me personally right now into our community as it sinks in that we all need to know what to do. You know, whether you're in your living room, out at a restaurant in your community, you know, at the movies, if you go to the movies anymore, right, no matter where you are. I mean, cardiac arrest doesn't care where you are, so you need to be prepared. So, and then you and I met, and we like to talk here late at night, like it is here in Southwest Florida, about whatever you're teaching us tonight.
You know, your congratulations on this one. Rapid response. You're a keynote speaker at the rapid response team. Can you explain a little bit what is a rapid response team is, what they consist, what they do?
Yeah, thank you. That's a good question. So, I've got the keynote for this rapid response certification course. It's going to be a live 2-day course full of very, very cool speakers in their field. But rapid response teams are very similar to what we have outside the hospital. In pre-hospital, we have emergency medical services. So the ambulances that people call when they're unsure about what's happening or there is a problem, they call, you know, whatever your number is here, 911, and in comes the advanced level of care. They do have basic and advanced. Inside the hospital, a handful of years ago, the response to what we call failure to rescue. So if a patient was, you know, did not get rescued within the hospital, they realized that critical care teams, you know, you basically, if you're in the emergency room or the ICU, have to drop what you're doing, meaning your patients may not drop what you're doing, but someone has to cover you so you could go help in the hospital, respond to a patient that might be deteriorating in some level. So they created dedicated teams called rapid response teams that not only, and it's different in every hospital, but not only can a family member call if they're feeling that their human, their person, their family member is not looking so good and they're not even quite sure what's wrong, they can call a rapid response. A nurse who's watching a patient very carefully, but they're unsure if this patient looks like they may or may not be going the wrong direction, they can call a rapid response. And or of course the inevitable, this person looks really bad, they can call a rapid response. And so what happens is they get this team, this internal emergency response team that's made up of critical care nurses, a whole bunch of team members, ED, ICU, respiratory therapists, pharmacists. There's a whole crew of people that come to help not only the person taking care of the patient, but the patient. Hopefully catch them before it's too late. That's the goal.
These are the behind actors really saving our lives. So we all depend on those people that they have proper education, proper training. So that choreography plays in the rescuing life, you know? So what is all involved there? Proper training, all those things that are required, but the public may not know what they go through, what kind of things they need to go through. So tell us a little bit, give us some shed a light on that kind of thing.
Yeah, well, I love your word choreography because that's just totally appropriate. So in order to save a life, again, no matter where you are and no matter who's doing it, there needs to be choreography. It's you know, it's something that needs to be practiced, and there's roles. So that's what these rescue teams, they know their role, and it's important for them not only in their training. Again, most rapid response teams come from the ER or the ICU background, or sometimes even both. And often, you know, I sometimes talk about in some of the things in some of my social media, I talk about the hospital being like a hamburger. So the top bun is like the ICU and the bottom bun is like the ER. But everything in the middle is the BLS burger. So basic life support burger, meaning everybody and every other patient in every other specialty in the middle of the hospital, that's everybody, ortho, OB, surgical services, endocrinology, oncology, whatever, they're all there. They are basic life support trained in general. There's usually a smattering of ACLS in between advanced life support. But the advanced critical care teams, they deal with critical patients all the time. The middle of the hospital, not so often. So the training is significantly different. Well, I shouldn't say significantly different, but it's a bit more intense for those who are our critical care teams. But remember, the people who are calling are generally the middle of the hospital, and so they need support. So the training, quite often the critical care teams, those who are responding, they have a lot of training. They have training in their daily work because they see large volumes of critical care people every day, but the middle of the hospital doesn't. So that's the key to this. It's how do we make sure that the burger has the training that they need so that regardless of your patient deteriorating or not and in what condition the patient is, that they know what to do because they're there until help arrives. That's the key. That's the key. The key to a well-oiled system / burger is making sure that our basic life support in the middle of the hospital has the training they need, which requires more than the standard of once every 2 years, in a classroom in a land far, far away from where the magic hits the fan. So that's my big thing.
So people like us, we think once you're out of the ICU, everything is safe. Between the buns, everything is just meat, nothing else. Basically, there's no emergencies, no rapid response, no basic life support system required. People think that way, but you're saying that the entire system is actually, you need to fill up with the basic life support system. The team has to be ready all the times in every aspect of the process.
All the time, and it needs to be a priority because, again, cardiac arrest or respiratory arrest or whatever, people when people are sick, I mean, they're in the hospital, so they're sick from one thing or another. Their condition can change quite rapidly, and the ratio of patients to nurse is also much bigger in the middle of the hospital. So, in the ED and ICU, they tend to be lower numbers. ER people will get me because they tend to have a lot, but in the middle of the hospital, it could be 4, 5, 6, 7 patients, and every patient that a nurse takes on increases that patient's risk of not being rescued, failure to rescue, by 7%. And it also increases by 7% their chance of dying within 30 days. So do the math. If you've got 6 patients, 7 times 6 is a 42% chance that you will not be rescued because of the volume that nurse has of humans underneath him or her.
So between the sandwich, between the two buns, they need to get all the nurses, all the system in the entire system need to have proper education and the training for the rescue operations. Is a rescue.
Yeah, and it's not just nurses. It's anyone who has basic life support.
Yeah.
Basic life support. Because in basic life support, you're supposed to be able to recognize the problem, call for help because you're sure you need help, whether it's a rapid response because you're not so sure, or this one looks pretty bad, I'm sure, I need help. Begin compressions immediately and use your electricity, meaning grab the defibrillator and use it. So that's the same whether you're with a manual defibrillator in a hospital or you are at the mall or in the airport with a AED, right? So anyone and everyone should be ready to do those things. And so that is my big platform. And now when I'm speaking to these specialty rapid response teams for my keynote, it's called my speak. What's the title? Failure to Rescue: From Fear to Courage and Action. And it's going to be me inspiring these critical care teams to realize that they're the buns, for mindset, because it's tough when you take care of critical care patients all the time, and by the time you rush into the burger, they don't. It's called a very high risk and very low frequency. So they're nowhere near as ready as the buns are, unless they do all kinds of hands-on brief repetitive practice. And we want to empower them so they're not afraid or uncertain whether they should or shouldn't until we get there. I mean, you're supposed to be shocking within the first 2 minutes, but the national average for shocking, first shock in a hospital in the United States is 9 minutes.
It is the best interest of hospitals to give a proper training. Otherwise, their morbidity rate, the mortality rate goes up. So they have to give a proper. That's their responsibility to give proper training for all the nurses, for all the staff. Actually, as you said, between the two burns, everybody has to. The top to bottom have to have proper training. That's for the best interest of the hospital. Do you agree? Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. And it's been the recommendation from the resuscitation giants around the world for a bazillion years. They all say that, I mean, right now the requirement is, you get recertified once every 2 years. And if, the standardization of the practice is not so standard. And it depends on where you are, the size of your hospital, the resources available. I mean, there's macro and micro, hospital issues, if you will, that prevent and or support training. But let's face it, when everyone's broke, which seems to be the theme in healthcare, broken in more than one way, education tends to go to the bottom of the barrel. But I'm sure no one wants to talk about that or think about that when they finally do go to the hospital. They would have no idea you've got less than 10% chance of surviving a cardiac arrest in the hospital. Of course, it's pretty low in out in your neighborhood as well, but the perception is that we're on it and we have this, and we are, but it's not cake baking. You need to be ready, and it's scary. So it's something we need to practice quite often.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, one of the things that everybody, the public has to be, not only nurses has to be trained, public has to be aware. Then they can put a pressure on the system itself. If the public doesn't know how important, how their loved ones are going to be in danger if they don't have proper education and training for all these nurses, that's a responsibility. I don't know who takes the responsibility, but the counties, and they have to really. Somebody has to. Thank you. You're raising that voices now. That I think we need people like you to make aware of everyone, not only public, even the people who are in healthcare. They don't know much about all these, the actors behind the real actors who saves lives. We don't know what they do, what their education, what their training is. All we're not exposed to that. I see a lot of doctors. Sometimes I go through their credentialing process, and sometimes their basic life support system, the certification expired, ACLS certification expired. They don't. Oh yeah, I forgot about that. I need to go and get it done. So that is one of the things I see sometimes.
Yeah, but honestly, the certifications, it's for me, it's got to be far more meat and potatoes. It's got to be far more normalcy. It's got to be. It's just practice. I mean, it's 2 to 6 minutes. Hands-on, brief, repetitive practice, and it doesn't matter who you are or where you are, because and who takes responsibility. If you ask me that question, I'm going to say me. I have a license. It's my responsibility. If I say that I'm okay and competent to be in that position, holding that job, taking care of these patients, then I'm also saying that I have the skills needed to do that job. So it's my responsibility. It's the nurse's responsibility. It's whoever says they can do that job. It's their responsibility. We can't keep pointing to the system and saying, well, the system's not providing it, or the system's not giving me enough practice. You got to get the practice. If you know in your gut, whether you're at home and you're not a healthcare person, or you are a healthcare person, if this scares you and you don't feel confident, just like anything else in life, right? I just recently talked about this. Like, if you're uncomfortable with it, you need to lean into it. Something happens in healthcare workers. We get to a point where we're past knowing that we're not so sure about something, and then it almost gets kind of embarrassing to say that you don't, so you just don't. And then you kind of easily fade into the background when something happens because you wouldn't dare get in the way. But how gross is that? I mean, that's a terrible feeling. And so I ask you, if someone in your home dropped right now, are you ready? So whose responsibility is it, Ramana, to make sure that they know what to do? It's everybody's responsibility. School
Absolutely.
teachers, you're in a room with all these babies. You need to be ready. It's traumatic to be around somebody that's passing or trying to pass, and it's scary. So it's all of our duty. It's our duty as humans to be prepared the best we can for an emergency.
Yeah. So I think in not only just people, now facilities has to be ready. Now the hospitals are closing down. I think we need to find a solution for the public in general. That's not our responsibility, I understand, but I think it is the overall responsibility of the public ourselves to put some kind of a mini centers of this rescue team somewhere in the, and then they get properly trained, and they get proper training for all the particularly related to heart. That's one of the most major condition that comes across, right?
Well, I think we're in a really interesting time. Hospitals, thank God for hospitals and thank God for the care that we are able to provide. But at the same time, the model of care is going home. We're getting we should be, we need to be reconnecting. I mean, this is a human connection thing. So anytime we put the patient first, you put my mom or my daughter or my children first, we're going to win. So if you want to, bringing care home, bringing care to your neighborhood, bringing care closer to us, and making it more accessible and certainly more affordable, and not making it all about sickness. I mean, come on, that's
Yeah.
going to work. I'm not an expert on this, and there's people who are far more involved about how to fix the healthcare system. I just know that if you bring it closer to home, make it more about humans and the patients, and bring it back to the human connection. Remember the day when doctors would do house calls? How cool is that, right? And
Yes.
no one wants to leave home anymore.
You're a rescue nurse, basically you do a lot of rescue operations. You're not only in the hot side of it, Kick Hot is your program, but also a lot of respiratory distress, a lot of other problems come across, drug overdose. How do you respond to that? What are the things that they need to be properly trained on? Or is it the part of the rescue team, is rescue RN also do that kind of thing?
Well, you know what? It's kind of tricky. You really can't separate the lungs and the heart. So breathing is pretty important.
Yeah.
And I'll say right now for in hospital, thank God for respiratory therapists. I mean, they fret at the head, right? So their entire job is that airway, which for me as a nurse or critical care nurse, when I was taking patients, was heavenly because I could concentrate on the heart and do what I did with the rest of the human. But that airway is important. But as far as your question goes, I mean, if you stop breathing, the heart's is their close buddy. So one or the other one gets upset, the other one's gonna jump on board pretty quickly. So respiratory arrest leads to cardiac arrest and vice versa. But if you're at home, there's not much you can do. I mean, you can open the airway, you can do your best to position them. You certainly got to call for help as soon as possible. And then you mentioned drug overdose. So there's lots of use of Narcan, and that's been made public now for everyone. Family members going to have Narcan, so to help reverse the possible drug overdose. So, and then it's a skill. Learning just to bag a patient is a skill, and if it's not something again that you don't do quite often, you're not going to do it very well. So rescue breathing, mouth to mouth, that kind of went out of vogue a while ago, right? All the creeping cruds that we have these days that we would share mouth to mouth. If you're a loved one, mouth to mouth is cool. But anyway, so respiratory, cardiac, they're pals. So, but if one goes, the other ones soon follow.
In life and death, is the frontline healthcare people are, you are the nurses, actually, not the doctors, not anyone. The nurses are the frontline heroes, in my view, when there is a life and death comes in there. Let me present another topic, a little bit closer to the topic, that is Susan Davis, rescue. When I come back, I will ask her what is she doing and what kind of things she's offering. We'll ask her. Okay, so she is going to watch with me. She's also going to watch with me this presentation. I'm going to bring her to the both of us. Okay, that's good. Now I'm going to talk about OCD, depression, and sex, maybe related to some equation. That's interesting. Right? Mathematics is there. Facial symmetry. One of the things that we define beauty is that through the facial symmetries. That's what they say. Research study is saying that if you draw a line between the eyebrows between these beautiful people like Marilyn Monroe, Denzel Washington, Indian actress, the Aishwarya Roy, and now we can add Susan Davis to that list. beautiful people. If you draw the line in between the things, their left side is almost a reflection of the right side. That is what the beauty was defined as. A symmetrical facial symmetry is plays an important role in the beauty definition of beauty for humans. So but if you see asymmetric faces, you get scared. Frankenstein, Freddy Krueger, or Jack the Ripper, or anybody that what his name was, Joker. They're all scary because the left side is, if you draw a line between the eyebrows, in the left side of the face is not the right side of the face, so they look scary. That is usually we humans, we tend to believe that they're scary people, they're dangerous, they're aggressive, and all those things. But so if you see, go back to the all the way. Susan, you can jump in anytime you want to. Le- Leonardo da Vinci, is the famous picture of the Leonardo da Vinci picture, symmetry of human. You draw the picture of that is a bilateral symmetry. I mean, if you draw your lungs, and the left side of the lung is very symmetrical to the right side lung. Heart is more or less same. Susan may not agree, but the left side of the heart is almost almost structurally at least same in the right side. Maybe inside they may be different, but these are the symmetry also in the healthcare, very deep inside the healthcare. So what is symmetry? That's it is the quality of being made up of exactly similar parts that are arranged in a way that is aesthetically pleasing, beautiful, aesthetically beautiful. That's what it is. And functional, beautifully. It has to be choreographed. That's what we are talking about. It has to be greatly functional. You see that is in mathematics, you see in medicine, you see in art. This kind of a symmetry is very critical to the our human survival. In fact, if you see that, I'll show you the loss of symmetry. If you see the biological system in the butterflies, you see left side, and the butterfly wings are exactly similar to right side butterfly wings. That's why butterflies are so beautiful. Even in the radiology, you can see the doctors compare the left side lung to the right side chest X-ray. You can compare that to diagnosis much better. So this is all the loss of symmetry we are following without understanding the loss of symmetry. That's what I'm bringing to the front lines of the what is involved. There is a structural symmetry. For example, snowflake is, if you see close up look at the snowflake, you see a structural symmetry is beautiful. That it looks like that. It is a beautifully arranged in all directions. You twist any other way. You do round. You twist the snowflake to the clockwise or anti-clockwise. It doesn't look it doesn't change any difference. You can't tell the difference. A functional part in the football team, the movement of the people is very critical to the symmetry. If you are asymmetric movements, what it does is it can cause a prone to injuries. So they teach the dancing and the choreography and all these things. That's why some of the football teams, they learn dancing, they teach ballet and all those things. It's a very important because they're less prone to the injuries they are. So these are lots of symmetry, or, for example, sex. That's what all the guys are interested right now. So let me tell you that sex and they found out in the research study in structural symmetry in the University of California and University of Pennsylvania that women get more orgasms with the guys with a structural symmetry with the left side faces, not the other way around. They said that women get more. I don't know about that. We'll ask somebody here. Left side is a more symmetrical to the right side. That is it is a more in research found out that in the man with a structural symmetry on the left side and the right side is the woman respond to more. Even the honeybees prefer radial symmetry, beauty of the flower. Not just honey. They found a research found out that honeybees prefer the radial symmetry, which is the beautifully arranged petals. That is a very strange. Even the honeybees know that what the beauty is. That they want to prefer the symmetrical structure. OCD, for example, they find out the OCD is a fear of asymmetry. It's actually we all think the research is saying that now until now it is a belief that is a biological, psychological problem. But in fact, it may be close to the evolutionary genetic disorder, which is that because we may be, when we are growing, human civilization coming up, when you want to see a lion or something that you want it to be structures, feet of asymmetry. If you see that, you can figure out the if you see part of it, you can figure out the rest of the parts of it. So they are extreme need of symmetry. These all the OCD people need a extreme need of symmetry. It may be genetic disorder. Rather, that is not, maybe may not be a research. Maybe it is suggesting that it is not just a psychological disorder. That's a very interesting point. We don't. It is maybe coming from the genetics side of it. Genetic side of it. Then the next is that I'm going to show you. Okay. So body asymmetry. So the research found out that people with a body asymmetric functions, they have a very depressed. They are usually associated with a depression. It doesn't mean that all people with asymmetric people are depressed, because people perceive them not beautiful or whatever. It may be reflection of that. Whatever it is, they show a depression, or sometimes asymmetric, complete asymmetric nature of the body may be underlying condition is a depression, or any other underlying physical condition could be possible. So that's why asymmetry is related to the not a good health in that sense. Now, in the for example, in the asymmetric breast, for example, in the 15% of the developing variation between the breasts, you know, it it is 12.8% increase in the risk of the cancer for them. People with variation, particularly developing uh, variation between the two breasts, and one breast is, changing 15% difference. This breast cancer journal was talking about 12.8%. Recent research suggests that they have an increase of 12.8% breast cancer increase there. So it's a asymmetry is connected with nature prefers symmetry. If you see a palm tree, or see a diamond, is a best example of the symmetry. And the flowers, see, that's why we admire flowers, the radial symmetry you see. So these are the mathematical, just I so that's why it is somewhere it's a mathematical problem. So I tell you, when Einstein got I'll come back to the symmetry in a second, but Einstein got a problem. What is that? There is a conservation principle in the physics, law of conservation of energy. Law is the energy is neither created nor destroyed. The first law of thermodynamics is the law of conservation of energy is holds good everywhere, but in certain situation, one situation it does not hold good. When the expanding universe, the law of conservation of energy is getting violated. So that bothered Einstein is expanding in. I don't need to go into the details of the physics part of it, but it's not holding good. So Einstein worried about it. Then who comes to rescue? Woman came to rescue. That is, her name is Emmy Noether. She's a mathematician woman. She came to rescue Einstein. She's a genius woman. She was born in 1882 in Germany, and then passed away in 1935. I'll talk about that in a second. But in Germany, Emmy Noether was, the time that there was no woman in mathematics. They said that, oh, do you expect they said that the one of the dean of the German school came to her head of the department and came to ask her, was asking him, why you are hiring a woman for the job, because the soldiers are coming from the war. They're not going to bow head for a and they learn from a woman. That the at the time is a very Hilbert is one of the famous mathematician. He said that they're not coming to the Turkish bathhouse. These are all the learning institutions. They must learn. That's what he said, what he gave us. So she is the professor of mathematics in Germany. She came up with one of the beautiful laws. What she said was very interesting. Energy is not a fundamental. She said that's a shook the world of physics and mathematics. The energy is not a fundamental. Geometry is a fundamental. The beauty is a fundamental. She says. She came up with a mathematical laws that represent the beauty is itself is a fundamental. She proved it. That is the power of that symmetry, loss of symmetry. That is what she found out, the loss of symmetry. For example, the conservation of energy came from the symmetry loss. Yeah. So if you throw a ball today, and it will come down, it will come down. Tomorrow you do it, it will come down. Yesterday you did it, it will come down. It is irrespective of the time you do that, that ball coming down is a conservation of energy, related to conservation of energy. That's what, it's a strange way of connection, but the loss of symmetry is connected. Time symmetry is called, is connected to the conservation of energy. I'm going to play video, guys. Let me show you a quick video, and if you just give me 1 second, yeah, I'm going to play this video. It tells.
Look into a mirror, wave your hand, and your reflection will wave back at you. In everyday life, it's easy to take the effect of symmetry for granted. But symmetry is vital to understanding and predicting how our universe works. This relationship between symmetry and the mechanics of the universe was something Emmy Noether proved in 1915 with her remarkable theorem, linking maths and physics in one harmonious statement. Wherever there is a symmetry of nature, there's a corresponding conservation law. So what exactly do we mean by symmetry in physics? Well, it can be described as a transformation that leaves a system fundamentally unchanged after the transformation has been performed. It's a change that makes no change. Take, for example, spatial translation. If we have a system and move it to a different point in space, that system will continue to work in the same way, provided all of the relevant conditions of that system were moved along with it. In other words, the laws of physics are not affected by translation in space. And similarly, with time translation, a system can be shifted at any point in time, and its physics would remain unchanged too. Even the most fundamental laws of physics are themselves symmetrical. They remain the same wherever or whenever you are in the universe. The symmetry of time translation confirms to us that energy cannot be created or destroyed.
So that is what the symmetry is. Symmetry plays a fundamental role in the entire physics. For example, breast cancer detection use a symmetry, structural source symmetry. It's a mathematical equations. You can use it to detect the symmetry in the detection of the breast cancer. That's they use the algorithms, the symmetry algorithms. They use it to find the breast cancer detection. Reconstruction of the people who go through the augmentation and all those things, they can do reconstruction is can be done through this loss of symmetry. It's a mathematical algorithms behind these scenes that you don't see. Orthopedic surgery, for example, same thing in the that prosthetics. When you are creating a prosthetics, you have to really understand the symmetry, loss of symmetry. It's a movement not only in the functional and the structural and functional. You need to understand both. So it plays this, particularly this loss plays a very important role in the symmetry. In the sports medicine, for example, injury prevention, improve performance because the movement itself is a symmetrical. If you improve the symmetry in a movement, that is less prone to the injury and improve performance. So they teach them how to move. Movement for our bodies are restricted. That human bodies are. That Susan can talk about. Human bodies are restricted by a lot of things. We are prone to injuries, heart attacks, strokes, and injuries. They're all coming one and the same. So we have to prevent those kind of things. You have to do all the structural symmetry is important understanding. Drug discovery, for example, to understand a protein folding, for example, is that they place a structural law. Symmetries play very important role in the molecular integrity to protein folding because it may be the protein may be this way. If you turn around, it may act different. So they have to know exactly how that symmetries work. So it's if you see in the orthofractal symmetry, Jackson Pollock is all his paintings are very structural. The art is a reflection of the symmetry. He really created a fractal symmetry. It's called is one of the Jackson Pollock art is considered as one of the physics here holy grail for the fractal symmetries. That is the one thing. Is it's a people they thought it's a modern art, but it's a very trained artist, Jackson Pollock. I have I made a special show on him one day. I'll make a one show on the Jackson Pollock and fractal geometry, and how it's a powerful in medicine itself, solve a lot of problems in medicine. I'll talk about that later on in one of the shows. But fractal symmetry plays an important role in the for example, um, thought itself. A lot of people who take a psilocybin, for example, they see a kind of a the kind of a geometry they see is a fractal symmetry. The geometry they see, what Jimmy and other was talking, these are fractal symmetries. Mandelbrot sets they call. They produce the mind-boggling the structures they produce is a fractal symmetries. These are mathematically constructed. So then you see there is a lot of companies they are working the healthcare companies that the symmetry algorithms they deploy is a posture and the Axis, well, or McVie, all these companies are working on the symmetry algorithms, and they're based on the Yemi Nather, a woman that did a laws for that. You have to follow her laws, her mathematics. Nature's wonder, human body. That Susan is talking about. Laws of symmetry are extremely important to human body. That is very critical to understand the process. So, Heather, she moved to 1930s. She moved to Philadelphia, 1932 or so. She moved to Philadelphia. Right after that, she got ovarian cancer. She died immediately within 3 years. She died in 1935. She died in Philadelphia near Brandmore College in Pennsylvania, near Philadelphia College campus. She was a professor there. Her ashes were distributed across the campus and under the ground. And she's a remarkable woman. Einstein said that when Nather died, Einstein wrote in the New York Times, Nather was the most significant creative mathematical genius thus far produced. So Einstein, a genius, was telling she is a genius. That is a really we have to attribute all these things what we do today in medicine, in the art, and the mathematics and everything. There are people behind it who does this great work. Thank you for watching, and let me bring the Susan back to the stage. Susan, what do you think of it?
Oh man, I got to tell you what, Ramona, hanging out with a physicist is never dull. I can tell you that. I mean, we sure covered a lot of ground, right? We went from like basically we did a little sex, drugs, and rock. Well, we didn't get the rock and roll, but we threw in a little math instead. Fractals, physics,
They're
um,
all connected in a way. We
yeah,
don't.
they're all connected. I mean, I love the fractals, but ultimately, when you move into the quantum space, does any of it really exist anyway, right? I mean, are we particle or are we gas? I guess
Yeah,
we'll
that's
get into
right.
that a
That's
little
a
later, but pretty neat. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, that's what everybody needs to appreciate now. Medicine is getting exposed to these people, and my job is this is my podcast is to expose to bring people that they're forgotten, particularly women who are forgotten, who contributed so much, and we do work. So many algorithms are written on their name, and then they never mention them in the history because they history trivializes a lot of women who their contributions, particularly women. So I want to bring them to the table in the front lines. That's my job. That's my
Yeah,
duty, I
well,
feel.
I like how you threw in that she rescued Einstein with her mathematics. That was pretty cool. I saw that. I caught that.
So you're trying to rescue a lot of public now. So what is the rescue? RN does that. What is your company does most of the times? What do you do day to day, and then what do you do with the what kind of a training you provide for the nurses? Is it a structured or is it coursework? Is it a long time? Anybody can take online? What is the
Yeah.
structure of the rescue RN?
So it's growing and changing. It's the rescue RN and what I do and whom am I doing it with. It grows and it's changing, and that's the just brilliant, wonderful thing about growth and expansion and leveling up. So what's something that I've been doing locally for a bazillion years now, on a one-to-one basis, training one unit, or one hospital and then multiple hospitals, is now pivoting to outside the hospital. So I'm in the middle of a transition right now. I'm absolutely still doing lots of training. So I do training. Right now, the focus has been primarily specialty areas that have called me in. So I've been doing a lot of consulting and a lot of training and drill work with different areas that you wouldn't even think of, again, in the burger of the hospital primarily. So like I was just last week, I was with a non-invasive cardiology, a department you wouldn't think would need training, but you do. They're running stress tests. They're doing all kinds of things with patients that could incite a cardiac arrest. And they usually have kind of a low staff, and there might be in a back corner of the hospital somewhere. So what I'm doing is I look at what they do, I look at where they are, I look at the equipment they have, and then we drill. And so that's the one thing that has never stopped with what Rescue RN's been doing. So I consult, figure out what their need is, what their equipment is that they have, and then bottom line is, regardless of what they have, if they don't even have to have equipment, it's what does it look like to put together the rescue response. But right now, a huge part of my time is in the community. So I'm working on a huge thing here in South Florida. We're working on a 5 county-wide what's called Heart Safe program. So it's a huge program to bring hands-only CPR and AED awareness to the masses. And I'm collaborating with other areas around our country and actually around the globe that are doing stuff like this already. And so we're getting together and we talk about, and this is huge. This is all the hospitals in the area, all the EMS, so all the ambulance services. This is fire, law enforcement, businesses, schools, our children K through 12, adult continuing education, our universities, and our businesses. So it is a giant collaboration, which for me is extremely gratifying. So it's some fun. It's fun. Cardiac arrest is not very fun, but getting out in the public and making it real for them in very short, very brief. I'm talking, we can do this in 5 minutes, 10 minutes. We can do the training in a half an hour or an hour. We really can fit this training, life-saving training, into a very small window. So Rescue RN is still consulting and working and doing drills with hospitals and specialty departments across the country, and even the world. And actually, some of my research, I will tell you this is pretty cool. I do have someone who is replicating my original research on Code Prep, my signature program, in Pakistan. They're just getting ready to start. So I'm sharing my data back and forth, and I can't wait to see what their data is going to bring forth. So that's cool.
Okay, I'm glad you brought that up. I'm from India originally, but I tell you, my father is a teacher and a doctor in a small town, small village. In fact, it's a big, in the India progressed from when I left, and now India is economically forward. They're one of the powerful countries now, like India and China. But the problem is healthcare, particularly emergency system, is not improved. It did not catch up. There is so many people work on the computers, so they don't move much, and they have a lot of prone to the heart attacks. And we don't have any system to really, we don't have any massive infrastructure is not in place. It's a very small limited number of systems available. It is a huge problem. I think we need a massive resources. They have the money, the purchasing power, but they don't really. That's one thing that they need to know. They need to install these kind of systems in place. Training for the nurses, for the CPR and the basic life support system, and hospitals to be ready, all the nurses to be ready. You're talking about not a big major cities. You're talking about second tier towns, cities, everywhere. This is a problem. It is a you have a if you. I think it is a huge demand for this kind of services in the world, in everywhere, because it is really, really, not only I'm not talking about India, those countries around that area that I know, there is no way we are close to respond to the emergency team. We don't have a trauma network. We never, my father died because he was hit by a car. We don't have a trauma network. So they don't know whom to save. They don't have the system in place. And then this rapid team like this, it's really save lives. And we don't have it now. That's one thing. There is a system, the education and training, all of them are required. Those countries, not only, I'm not talking about just India, those countries around there and around the world, more or less, except a few Western countries and the United States, the rest of the world don't are not equipped with this one. What do you suggest to start the first thing to do with all these people with the starting like a scratch, from the
Starting
base?
from scratch.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's exactly what I'm talking about. It's no different. I mean, you have to work with what you have. And to circle around what we talked about just a little bit ago, who's responsible for knowing what to do? Well, we are ourselves. So, I mean, but someone has to be from scratch. Someone has to be taught at least the first time. So it's imperative that we as a world recognize the need for at least, I mean, that's it. Recognizing, I mean, trauma is one thing, right? Everyone's going to recognize someone that's been like unfortunately for your father, that was, hit by a car. I mean, that's kind of obvious. Bleeding, obvious, wounds and injuries like that. That's obvious. Respiratory and cardiac arrest, sometimes not so obvious. Or watching the signs and symptoms, and people don't know when it's too late, to call for help, or especially in these areas like you're referring to. They're far away from help. So what are we going to do? I mean, to start from scratch, everyone has to at least learn how to do hands-only CPR. I mean, like, you have to know how to do CPR, but
That is
but on massive scale, So that's why I love it. In fact, it's probably some of my favorite calls when people contact me right now from different faraway areas, that far away from me anyway, that have nothing. I mean, they ask me, they're like, well, no, we don't have the money for this. I mean, that's a month's salary for us even just, even contemplate, a single course or whatever. So anything like that, I just do because it's just what I'm going to do. But I consult with them. I share my stuff with them. I look at their equipment. I'm willing to go and train just about anywhere, because in areas like that, they will group and they will come together to learn, and they're very willing and wanting to learn. So, and there isn't a good teacher in the world that doesn't want to go somewhere where they really want to hear what you have to say, and so that you can help them.
Yeah, I'm glad to recommend you. My friend owns a hospital in Pakistan. He used to be here in Atlanta and here in Houston. I'm glad to recommend. But sometimes even they don't even know what the next steps are. Even they have money now. India is making good money and they have the resources now. They don't know what the next steps are. In the maybe major cities understand it. Even the small towns, even major cities, there is no structural way. A structured program is not there. That you know that all the nurses are properly trained? We don't know. It's a very so dicey situation. That's one thing. Is I think there are people, not only the institutions itself, like hospitals and the medical clinics, they can do the first step. They have the resources, they can do that. I think they need education and training, people like you that can translate into that process in a big way into the rest of the world.
Yep, it's good. I mean, sometimes some of the people I talk to in different areas, they have one defibrillator in the whole hospital, and that defibrillator is really old. They don't have the expensive $150 pads like we have, and it rolls up and we throw out and put on another one. I mean, I'm not even going to get into the cost of the pads. I mean, just pads instead of the old school paddles, clear, and they use the paddles. I mean, some people still use paddles for certain areas for certain rings, but you need gel, and so some of the equipment they have, one in the whole hospital, and it's old, and really no one knows how to use it. So but anyway, I really do enjoy consulting and helping, and we Zoom, and I always offer to go if they're going to put together training. And then what I do is I offer my research to the local nursing school, so that they can then, because I benefit, right? I get the results. It feeds my beast of the more places my program of brief hands-on repetitive practice get used, the more data I get to prove that it's not rocket science, like it's not quantum physics. It's pretty logical stuff. Recognize the problem, call for help, begin compressions, and use your electricity. Boom.
Access to care is one of the things here, particularly hot. So maybe the best thing of all is the prevention. Do you have some ideas about the prevention for the heart problems? What do you would you suggest?
Yeah. It's everything we learned, in kindergarten. Be nice to one another. Be nice to yourself. Be nice to your body. Balance your mind, body, and soul. Like, your life depends on it. I don't know why people think that they got to get another shot at this, but they're not. So I think it's kindness. It's kindness to yourself. It's love yourself, love your body, love your cells, love your heart.
Yeah.
Love your heart. You know, feed it good things. We all know the difference between good and bad with what we're putting in our mouth. I mean, people need to do a whole bunch of fork downs. What is that?
Yeah.
Put your fork down. You need to put your fork down. So, you know, it's really all about the love, a love for yourself, love for one another, bringing the care back to yourself and bringing it home. And that's everything.
That is one thing I love about you. So you not only you talk about medical side of it, and then there is something of the human side, that's loving each other, talking each other is a very important process. It is truly an honor to talk with you. It's always enjoyable to talking with you, Susan. You're a great friend, and we never met, but we are great friends. That I always felt that you're very close to me. Thank you so much. It's a truly an honor.
Thank you so very much. Who doesn't need a physicist friend? Come on.
Thank you so much. Good night, all of you. Let me play this one. Just if you can stay, I'll talk with you in a second after that. Let me play this my regular things, and then I'll go.
We are retelling their stories through our patented designs that can be worn on scrubs, t-shirts, printed on conference bags, and endless other promotional materials. Daily Wear for Medicine is the first ever of its kind to create curiosity in medicine through visual art. We at MedBricks are celebrating unsung heroes of the past who made enormous contributions to the field of medicine through our unique campaign called Daily Wear for Medicine. You can wear it, carry it, and give it.